And we're live. Welcome, Nat. Welcome, Nat as a mushroom. And how you doing today?
Your name is so original. I actually can't believe it. I actually realized something. I always call you Nat Miletic, but it's actually
Hmm.
Miletic, or what is it?
No, it is a itch. Yeah, yeah, it is IC. But we have like in Serbian we have this little accent on the C, so it's not in like this
How do you
alphabet doesn't
pronounce it? How do
support
you
it.
actually
So you,
pronounce it?
yeah, it's Militic. Yeah,
Okay,
just like
okay.
you said it originally.
Oh,
Yeah, so you had
actually,
it right. Surprisingly,
never mind.
surprisingly.
Never mind. No one cares actually, but it's fine.
Nobody cares, but it's fine. My mom, who watches the show
Yeah.
frequently, will care. So just remember that.
Actually, that reminds me, how many people have actually listened to it? Is it like two people or three
I think
maybe?
two. I think
Okay,
two.
that's a
Probably
start.
two.
That's a start.
Actually, that one guy that took me up. So somebody did win that challenge for getting the free ebook.
Okay.
One guy emailed
Shout
us and
out to
said, "Hey, I
Indri.
watched the
Shout out to
episode."
Indri. And I didn't tell you, Nat, but I actually asked him to email so that you would feel better.
Oh, thanks. You didn't have to tell me that.
Well, listen, the probability of Indri listening again as a repeat listener is highly unlikely. So we can shout him out.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good shout out. Yeah, thank you for listening, and I hope he enjoys the book.
Yeah, yeah. Although that's highly unlikely, but let's carry on.
Let's carry on. Okay, okay. So today we're going to talk about niching down. So as you we talked about it in the last episode, like we touched on it, I should say. Niching down and what are the benefits and disadvantages of niching down? Should you niche down? It's usually like one of the more common questions. And I saw you talk about this in the past on social media quite a bit. I know you're a big proponent of it, but for somebody who's just starting, like even freelancing, or obviously if you're already kind of going into the agency route, hopefully you've figured this out by now. But for somebody who's just starting out, what do you think? Should you niche down? What are the advantages and disadvantages?
Yeah, okay. So that's like a big, broad question, I think, to start it off. But obviously, I can't expect anything more because it requires a lot of intelligence to actually think through a question. But let's go
Hey,
with
can you
that.
do me a favor? Can you do me a favor though? Like I noticed your shirt is unbuttoned like all the way down to here.
Oh wow,
Is that intentional or?
that's a bit naughty. That's a bit naughty. That's a bit naughty. I just woke
I was
up.
like,
I
all
had to
right,
just quickly
then
put a
you.
shirt on.
Oh yeah, I figured you were walking around shirtless most of the time, anyways.
um, yeah, I think in general, right? If we just start with the premise of everything is becoming more saturated, everything is becoming more difficult to compete. I think that's true in services. I think that's true in dropshipping. You know, you've got Temu and Shein and many others flooding the market on the dropshipping side. Then you've got uh, brands like, let's say, big brands advertising on Facebook, on Google, and all these things. So you're competing. It's not what it was 10 years ago, is what I'm trying to say, right? So if we look at even like accountants, right? You can be an accountant for everyone or a lawyer for everyone, or you can niche down and be specific to, a very good niche. There's actually a very good book. It's called Unsubscribed by, is it Dale Priestley, I think, or David Priestley? Very, very good book. I actually read this book probably about 10 years ago. And one story, well, a couple of stories, but one stuck out on the value of niching down. And he uses this example of a personal trainer in the UK. And I'm gonna paraphrase it, but let's say he was charging like £30 an hour. He was helping everyone and anyone, right? Eventually, he was working with this guy who's like a consultant to help refine his positioning. And his positioning was he narrowed down from £30 an hour or whatever to doing everyone, working like 10 hours a day. Now he's only working with CEOs of high performing businesses earning a salary of over 250K a year. So that's like super specific. The difference is he basically 10x his income, worked much less, and he's doing basically the same thing, packaging it up for a particular industry. Now, he started out as a generalist, which answers the first point on should you start as a generalist or not. I think it's good to just, do your thing, open it up to anyone, get used to a few different industries, see what you like, see what you don't like, and then niche down from there. So I don't want to go a little bit too much because I'm talking a lot, and sadly we have to listen to your voice. So what do you think, and what would you expand or disagree with or agree with there?
Yeah, no, I agree, shockingly, that it's a good idea to niche down as soon as possible. I know it's a little bit tough when you're getting started because if you don't have, a lot of experience or even like, portfolio items for a specific niche or industry, you're going to be a little bit hesitant to kind of like portray yourself as an expert in a particular area. So definitely if you're starting out, I think it makes sense to be a little bit more general. But for me, it really dawned the whole like power of niching down is when I was pitching for projects at one point, I noticed that, I had a very high close rate with most projects, but every time we, lost on a project was because some other agency came in as an expert for that particular business niche, right? So we pitched, for example, one time for like a home builder. We did a really good proposal. Like, I thought it was kind of a slam dunk. And they decided to go with somebody else. And I, asked them for feedback as to, like why they decided to pick another company for that project. And they basically said, well, we liked your proposal, everything was good, but the other company is a home building website expert, right? And I'm
Mm,
like, sure, right? But, that kind of gave me the idea that actually, if you position yourself as the home building website expert, obviously you're more likely to attract those types of clients and get those types of projects. So there's power in that. And again, it's hard probably when you're getting started to pick that niche, but that comes through sort of some experience. And after you get a few projects, you can kind of, you have an easier time to select a niche and have a little bit more experience in that niche so you can market it effectively.
mm.
What do you think about, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like, is that your experience as well?
yeah, definitely. So I think okay, so first of all, I like that example. I think that sets the floor quite nicely. I think maybe to add to that, so let's say you are, you know, do websites or marketing or whatever other service for, let's say, plumbers or dentists or like home renovations or whatever. Let's say you've only done 5 websites. Those websites are more valuable than someone who's done 20 random websites, like for
Yeah.
pizza shops, hair salons, whatever. And the moment you've done 5, you increase your rates. I mean, it depends. I mean, maybe pricing is, we're going a bit too far on that. But uh, instantly, you've already got testimonials, right? So what I do in like outreach and stuff. So let's say I've niched down to dentists, right? So I'm in like the medical niche, but like a subset of it. Let's say like dentists. Instead of saying like, "Hey, I can make a dentist website," you say like, "Hey, we recently helped Doctor So and So generate like three times more bookings within 3 months. Would you be interested to see we can chat further?" So I'm not really saying like, "Do you want a website?" I'm saying like, "These are the results we got for so and so. Can we chat to see if we can help you as well?" Those reviews, if you've got like a lot of backing, that is amazing. Then the other benefit is, as you mentioned, the positioning aspect of it. If you have to advertise now, so if you have to do advertising on Facebook or Google. And this is a big reason that we must actually do a dedicated podcast on ads, like how outreach on this stuff. Because the thing is, so many people create Facebook ads or Google ads, spend hundreds of dollars, and it doesn't work. And there's a big reason. There's multiple reasons, but I would say the biggest reason is because they're making an ad for everyone and everyone, right? Whereas if you had to make a dedicated ad, if you had to spend $100 on plumbers, for example, in a specific area, you're going to get a much more results and better results than $500 everywhere and anywhere, servicing everyone. So that will also help you stand out. Also from an SEO perspective, Nat, surprisingly, that's something that you know how to talk well. Maybe you can add some nuggets on there from an SEO perspective and also add on onto that.
Yeah. No, even from an SEO perspective, I'm glad you mentioned ads. Yeah, there's like several obviously like marketing approaches to like marketing a business like this, but SEO is also a little bit easier, right? Because it's not it's going to be a little bit less competitive if you're trying to rank your website for whatever web design for dentists, web design for plumbers versus web design and then your location, which is what most people are doing, right? So
Mm.
so even SEO becomes a little bit more I would say like easier, especially if you haven't been doing SEO for a while. It's a little bit less competitive, right? So it
Mm.
gives you an easier time to rank for those things. So that's another benefit for sure.
Mm.
Let me ask you one more thing. This is what I hear often from, especially from new people. Again, like agencies, if you already have an agency, you've probably, figured this out by now. But a lot of people struggle with this when they're starting out is like, how do I pick a niche, right?
Yeah.
Because when you're starting out, it's like, well, in theory, this sounds great, but how do I select a niche when
Mm.
I'm like
Mm.
fairly new to this
Yeah.
like, freelancing gig or agency game?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I generally answer it by a few things. So it's either combination of things or one thing. So for example, experience. If you come from experience, let's say as an accountant, for example, and you want to do stuff on the side, service accountants, you've got a very good, you understand how they think, you've got experience in it. It's easy to pitch, you can, speaking from experience. So that's one thing, okay? Or maybe you've got experience dealing with certain clients or industries and you've just got a preference to it. That's another thing. You've just got a certain preference on, like, for example, my wife is interested in like baby sleep consulting, which is a super niche. And that's just her preference, on a lot of things. So you might want to do that. Then the other one is potential. Maybe you see potential in a particular industry based on some research that you've asked. And listen, a good one is like literally like if you had to ask ChatGPT, like I don't know, like give me 100 different niche ideas or something like that. You're gonna get a lot of industries, which is really cool. Now so now, how do you start, right? It could be based on what you already know on the things that I've said, but there's a big problem, and a lot of people overthink it, and they stress and they procrastinate, and they don't get started. The main thing is pick any niche, or you're even as a generalist, and just get started, and then you adapt from there. It might be 3 months or 6 months, but here's the key thing: you don't whatever niche you start with, you don't have to finish with, right? You can pivot, you can change, and do all those things. So I want to know what you think on that, but then I want to ask another follow-up question to you. And here's a subset on the niche is we often talking about industry, but let's also talk about platform. Do you think it's good to do both or one or the other? So yeah, let me know your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as much as possible, niche down on a platform. Not even from a marketing perspective, even though it helps with the marketing from a marketing perspective as well. But niching down on a platform also gives you deeper knowledge, which becomes more valuable to certain clients, right? So we like in the beginning, we were like, when I was solo, I was doing, just kind of broad websites for, anybody. Like you want to do work with Wix, you want to work with WordPress, HTML, sure, I'm your guy, right? I'll do whatever it takes, right? I even took some Drupal clients in those days because I was like, yeah, I'll do anything. But the trouble with that is you're always like learning new things. Your knowledge is never deep enough in a specific niche or area for you to be able to provide like high value to your clients. And also, it's actually, again, it's easier to market. Like when we went down not only like to WordPress, but even like Elementor, even like Elementor speed improvements, for example, people are seeking that out. So we actually were a lot more successful niching down on a technology and even like a sub technology
Mm.
within a particular stack. So definitely value in that. And so it doesn't only have to be, like you said, business vertical. It could be a technology, and then you can kind of niche down to a particular technology stack
Mm.
within different industries as well. That's valuable.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
definitely, like there's multiple approaches, and the thing I like about this is like once you kind of have experience like pitching to a specific niche, you can service multiple niches. So you don't have to be tied, like you said, oh, now I'm just doing websites for plumbers or whatever. You can spin up multiple like pages, websites, businesses for servicing different niches. I know multiple agency owners that do like, you know, plumbing. They have a company for a plumbing website business. They have a company for lawyers. They have a company for dentists. They have a company for whatever, right? And you can spin up multiples if you get kind of get inspired to work with different niches.
Mm.
Um, and then to go back to the question about like how to pick a niche, that's one that a lot of people struggle with. And I think there's a few ways you can do that. It's a little bit easier once you have a little bit more experience, once you've done a few websites or, services for different clients, is, picking one area that you enjoy working with. So it could be like it could be a business area. So maybe you like working with plumbers because they're easy to work with. They're going to leave all the technology stuff to you. They don't really care about, if one letter in a paragraph is a bigger size than another or whatever. They're usually not super picky, and they're going to trust you to like work on stuff. And maybe they have healthy budgets, right? Maybe there's a certain niche that is always kind of like, a little bit cheap or whatever. I can think of a few where it's always like, everything's a problem, right? Maybe you want to avoid those. So there's a few different ways that you can carve out a niche, and I think it's easier once you have a little bit of experience to be like, okay, this area is good, it's profitable, it's easy to work with, and I'm gonna stick to that and market to that particular niche. Right? Could be an industry or a tool set or whatever.
Mm.
But there's multiple ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that. And also like if you combine it, maybe not right now or let's say down the line. So let's say for example you wanted to focus on furniture stores, right? That's a good niche. There's a lot of big companies, small companies that do that. Now if you want to go a subset of that, if you have to focus on furniture stores on WooCommerce, for example, or furniture stores on PrestaShop, that's another one. It might sound like you're going too deep, but that's like ideal, right? And something that's like growing quite a bit now is Lovable. I don't know if you've played around with Lovable, or like
Yep.
Base 44. They're gaining a lot of traction on the stuff like basically AI, like ChatGPT for web apps, pretty much. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good, but people need like refining on that. So there's a lot of niched agencies on that. And just one other thing, I don't know if we've spoken about getting clients and stuff, but one cool thing about niching down to, let's say, WooCommerce or whatever, is you can use a tool like Built With, or some other tools, and you can figure out how many websites you can export, thousands of websites. Let's say, for example, built on WooCommerce, and then you've got other like factors. Maybe it's like too slow, or maybe a WordPress update came out or something, which happens a lot. And then they've got issues. Those ones are very easy to upsell. To be like, hey, do you need help with this and this and this? Or hey, I noticed, you've got this, we can upgrade you to this or whatever. There's a lot of upsells and pitching that you can do. It makes it much easier when you're niched to a particular platform and even
Mhm.
industry. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
No, that's good. I think we shared a lot of good tips for like niching down, and I think the only other thing I wanted to mention was somebody. Another thing I hear often is like the concept or the fear that you're gonna lose out on other niches. So if you're doing like dentist websites, like, well, what if I want to do a lawyer website, right? And usually, that that will come up is like, well, I don't want to turn away lawyer clients.
Mm.
And the beauty of this model is that you won't. They will, if they're interested in your services, they'll still approach you.
Yeah.
right? And you can always say, hey, yeah, even though we specialize in like, dentist websites, we absolutely do lawyer websites as
Mhm.
well. Here's some examples or whatever. So it's kind of a misconception that you're gonna like lose out if you niche down.
Yeah.
If anything, it's the opposite of that.
Yeah. And if you're busy, obviously say no to those ones, those requests. But
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you need it, then do it. But also to that point, if one has that question, it's a valid question to ask. But I mean, look at it in your own city, right? Look who are the specialists, look who are the generalists. Generally, the specialists are doing much better, and they've got much more of a waiting list on a lot of things. And there's a reason because they're specialists. Most people are generalists. And if you are niching down to particular niches, trust me, you're going to stand out more, you're going to get paid more, and you're going to get positioned better in this crowded marketplace.
Mhm. Excellent. No, I think it's good. So definitely our preference is niche down as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
Man, I just want you to turn off your camera.
Lee, I appreciate you trying to get us more views with the open shirt, but yeah, let's try to limit that next time.
Classic.
Awesome. Unfortunately, we'll talk to you again next month. So look for more for future episodes and more topics and shirtless Kyle.
See you guys.
See you later.
Classic.